Boys, UFC Paris this Saturday. We went a whole week without any UFC. However, it wasn't all, gloom and doom. We got to witness the boy Tony Ferguson get a win in big 2025. Honestly, I don't care if that shit was an early stoppage or not. I'm just happy my boy got a win. And I've just been on cloud nine since then. But with that being said, we're going to run through this Paris card. And I'm not going to lie, this card, especially that main card, is a pretty stacked fight night card. We're going to Paris. We got nothing but French fighters on this card, and we have big title implications in that main event. But let's start off prelims, women's strawweight division. Shauna Bannon, Sam Hughes. Bannon is a striker who likes to come forward, but pretty much just relies on her pressure to break her opponents. Her striking accuracy is pretty good, but that's pretty much all there is about Shauna Bannon, where Sam Hughes is a pressure fighter who is always moving forward and trying to bully her opponents. She's very aggressive with a non-stop forward pressure and is also very, very hittable, which I don't like, but has decent wrestling. She's pretty tough as well, and it's not like she's all that dangerous, but she pretty much uses her cardio to exploit her opponent. She's literally the women's version of Imavov, and I think that's what's going to happen in this fight. Sam is just a better fighter, to be honest, than Bannon. She's just better, and she's going to Imavov her way into a 30-27 decision. Let's get down to welterweight, though. Welterweight, Andreas Gustafsson taking on Rinat Fakhretdinov. Now, Gustafsson is a good grappler with solid wrestling, has some good power in his strikes, and he will be constantly using his pressure to back up his opponents to the cage. He'll look for a takedown, and he's pretty big for the division, 6'1", 74-inch reach. He has a good fight IQ, nasty elbows in the clinch, and he's always trying to find the finish here. But he can struggle against, good wrestlers, and honestly isn't all that proven in the UFC so far, where Rinat is a good striker, good accuracy, good volume, with some decent striking defense and good BJJ wrestling and grappling. He has some good fight IQ, but he can struggle against, high output fighters. I think, Rinat, he does struggle against these high output strikers. I think Andreas is going to keep him on the back foot the entire fight. I think he's going to shoot maybe round 2. I think round 1 is going to be all stand up. Round 2, Andreas is going to back up Rinat to the cage, go for a takedown. I don't know if it's going to be successful or not. I think that's roughly the game plan of Gustafsson. I think we're going to see Andreas just be in pretty much complete control in this fight. And then I think round 2 in the clinch, we're going to see a nasty elbow land that's either going to knock out or wobble Rinat pretty bad where he can get the finish there. I'm going round 3 KO for Andreas Gustafsson. Let's keep moving down though. Middleweight division. Brad Tavares, Robert Bryzik, I think that's how you say this dude's name. Tavares is a UFC vet. He is honestly at the end of his career and has solid striking accuracy, good takedown defense, where Robert has some crazy power, especially for that first round, with some good boxing fundamentals, a good jab, good takedown defense, but his accuracy isn't that good, and his striking defense, he can just be open a lot for exchanges, and his footwork is also pretty limited, and he slows down as the fight goes on. His offensive wrestling / grappling is non-existent, and he also just has no ground game at all. Tavares is just the more experienced and is, a gatekeeper in that middleweight area. I could see Robert sleeping Brad Tavares early, but I think it's going to be a classic 29-28 decision win for Brad Tavares, keeping that gate closed. Let's go down to welterweight division. Sam Patterson taking on Trey Watterson. Patterson is a long and tall fighter. He's 6'4" at 170, which is pretty crazy. He uses his length pretty well, not even just on the feet, but on the ground as well, being able to wrap up his opponents. But it's not like he has the best striking in the world, which is weird considering his reach. You think you'd have a crazy good jab. You think you'd be able to fight behind his reach, where he doesn't really do that. Where Trey Watterson is a well-rounded fighter with some decent KO power, some submission threats here and there. His striking output is pretty good. His accuracy is good. And, he's definitely also pretty big for the division at 6'5" with a 77-inch reach, so he's going to be a little bit bigger than Patterson. His cardio, though, a little bit concerning. And at times, it's like, I don't know how else I can describe it other than just world, but no skills. He has bad defense and a pretty one-dimensional ground game. And because of that, because of the fight IQ alone, I'm not picking Trey Watterson. I think Patterson's IQ will win him this fight. I don't think he even needs to use it that much because Trey Watterson just has a lack of IQ at certain points. And I don't think it's going to be a huge striking fight. I think Patterson is going to take this to the ground. Round 2 submission win for Sam Patterson. Gain this shit to the ground. Let's keep moving down, though. Also in that welterweight division, Rhys McGee taking on Axel Souza. Now, McGee is a rangy striker with accuracy, speed, power, some good clinch work. His head movement, though, zero, brother. And he gets hit just way too much because of that as well. And his takedown defense is pretty poor as well. Where Sola is a explosive fighter with good ground and pound, great takedowns. He has some nasty elbows with good fight IQ, but he can be over-volumed. And as the fight goes on, he just hasn't really fought any real level competition. Because of that, Rhys McGee, he's more proven. Yes, he doesn't have the best UFC record, but he's just more proven. And it's a short notice fight, so I don't like that for Sola. Coming in here short notice, in your backyard pretty much, and you're going to have those UFC jitters. I don't like it for Sola in that reason. I don't think Rhys McGee's all that great. He does have, it's not like he's a can because he's fought some good, his losses age well is what I'm trying to say. And I think it's going to be a 29-28 decision win for McGee just because short notice, and we don't know how good this Sola guy is. Let's keep moving down to the heavyweight division, though. Marcin Tybura taking on Ante Delija. Tybura is a fighter who wants to move forward, get his opponents to the cage, and then get the fight to the ground and land some lackluster ground and pound. Tybura is 39 years old. He's been wobbled a lot in his last few fights, which is very concerning. Where Ante is a dangerous first-round KO threat with some good pressure, good power, as well as he has some decent grappling fundamentals, but definitely is more known for his striking. And unless he can get a first round KO here, I don't think he wins this fight. Anta, just like what we went with Sola, outside UFC guy, we don't know much about him. And as we've seen time and time again, these outside UFC guys just aren't that good. Tybura is going to blobfest his way into a 29-28 decision. Let's keep moving down, though. Light heavyweight division, Oumar Sy, Brendson, Ribeiro. Oumar Sy is a well-rounded fighter with some good power, submission threats, with a strong wrestling background, high-level grappling, good takedowns, accuracy, and consistently successful on the ground if he wants to take it to the ground. But like we saw in his last fight, this dude has the IQ of a fucking peanut sometimes, and it's just very frustrating where Ribeiro is a offensive striker with solid grappling skills, but doesn't have the best striking defense in the world. Because of that, Ribeiro has terrible striking, and I think honestly Sy might be able to find the chin here. If not, he'll get it to the ground and get a ground and pound TKO here. But to be honest, I think round 1 KO on the feet. I think Sy's going to find the chin of Ribeiro. Let's get into the featherweight division. The main event of these prelims, William Gomis, Robert Ruchala. Now, Gomis, another well-rounded fighter who can strike, he can grapple, he has decent Muay Thai striking and grappling. His volume is pretty low and he can struggle to let his hands go at certain points. Where Robert is also a well-rounded fighter, has good KO power, some submission threats. He has some good finishes and was ranked pretty high outside the UFC, but doesn't have any, experience with UFC caliber fighters. And like we've been saying for a few fights already, I just don't know if, Robert is UFC level. I low-key think he can get it done here. I'm not gonna lie. I think out of all of these dudes coming in here on not just short notice, but making their debut, I think Robert has one of the better chances of getting the win here. I don't think he does, though. I think we're going to see a robbery split decision win for William Gomis. He's going to be the hometown favorite. He's going to have the judges in his back pocket. Mark my words, robbery 29-28 decision, William Gomis. Let's get into this main card now. Featherweight division. We got Pitbull taking on Losene Keita. Pitbull, dynamic striker with some decent knockout power and as well has some good grappling skills. However, 37, borderline 38. We've been saying it time and time again, this dude just got into the UFC. He's past his prime. He got into the UFC way too late, and it just doesn't look like this dude is the same fighter. He looks like he's washed with zero output, and it's just extremely frustrating to watch, where Losene is a dangerous striker with some good power, good speed and accuracy, nasty elbows and ground and pound. He has some good finishes and again was ranked pretty high outside the UFC, but inside the UFC doesn't have any UFC caliber fights. He doesn't have that experience, but I think honestly the speed is going to be way too much for Pitbull. And Pitbull's looked like trash in his last few fights. I can't pick him to win here. I think Pitbull is done. I just can't pick him to win here. He looked like hot garbage. Very frustrating to watch in his last two fights. Going around to KO for Losene. Let's keep moving down the lightweight division. For Rhys, Ziam taking on Caio Fernandes. Ziam is a long-rangey striker who does some good work in the clinch. He uses his legs to help with the range management. He has some sneaky elbows when he's in the clinch, and he has a good style to make him avoid risk and pick shots well. He can be a little bit of a slow starter because of that style, and just out here waiting to find that perfect shot. Where Fernandes is a powerful striker who's always bouncing on his toes, staying outside the pocket, then lunging in with speed and power. He has some good BJJ and takedown defense, but I think Ziam is just more well-rounded. I think he'll just be able to outpoint Fernandes the entire fight pretty much. I do think, Fernandes can get around here. I think other than that, 29-28 decision win for Ziam. I could see Fernandes getting it done here, but I just think Ziam is a hard style to beat, especially if you have that style of Fernandes with that bouncing style. Let's go down to that light heavyweight division though. Modestas Bukauskas taking on Paul Craig. Modestas is a striker with some good power, decent takedown defense, but doesn't have the most volume in the division. He has won by KO and submission with a lot of UFC experience, but his striking defense is just worrying, as well as his chin isn't the best in the division, where Paul Craig is a elite submission threat with a no-quit mentality and will constantly go for the submission to get the win and won't stop unless he's, put out cold. But his striking defense and more importantly, his chin are practically non-existent. He's pretty much a sub or bust type of fighter, and I don't think he's getting the sub here. I honestly think Modestas is knocking Craig out in the first round. I'll give Craig a little bit more respect. I'll go round 2 KO win for Modestas, getting Craig out of there. But let's keep moving down though. Lightweight division. Is this the featured fight? I believe it is. Featured fight. Bolaji Oki taking on Mason Jones. Oki is a powerful striker with a high striking output and some really good striking and defense with a 73-inch reach. However, he's pretty limited on that submission game offensively and defensively, where Mason Jones is a high-volume, aggressive striker with great boxing, and he's good at closing the range with some nasty elbows, some good knees, as well as he has that black belt in BJJ with some good takedowns. Because of his style, he can get hit a little bit too much, which I don't really like, as well as he doesn't have the most experience against the top tier competition in the UFC. But I just think Mason is better everywhere, and he's going to be able to take down Oki. Let's be realistic. He's going to take down Oki. I could see Oki winning a round here or there. But again, 29-28 decision win for Mason Jones. I think that's what's going to happen. I could see Jones getting a finish here. I honestly don't think Oki could get a win here. Could get a finisher. I could definitely see Jones though, but I'm just going to go 29-28 decision. Let's get into the co-main event. Also in that lightweight division, Benoit Saint Denis taking on Mauricio Ruffy. BSD, a well-rounded fighter who has fallen off a lot from, possibly a future champ to arguably not even top 15 level. He has good striking, good accuracy, volume, BJJ. His striking defense though, pretty bad. His chin is worrying, and mainly because of that aggressive style, let's be honest, where Ruffy, aka Brazilian Conor McGregor, is a nasty striker with some big power in his hands. He has a good reach. He's good at mixing in heavy strikes with his hands and then throwing a head kick. We have some spinning shit like we saw with him versus Bobby Green. He has good takedown defense and cardio, and he can finish the fight pretty much at any moment. So let's be realistic. And overall, Ruffy is just a better fighter. He's a better, more dangerous fighter. Round 2, I'm probably going to say, is it going to be a flat line? Could I see him flatlining BSD? I don't think I could. I mean, maybe. I'm going to say he puts out BSD, but it's not going to be like a flatline, stiffed up type of knockout. He's still going to be semi-conscious, you know, but he's still going to be out. Let's get into that middleweight division, though. Main event, Nassourdine, Imavov, Caio, Borralho. Imavov is a high-volume striker who can mix in some wrestling. Although he can mix in his wrestling, he rarely goes for any takedowns. His takedown defense is pretty good, shown in his fight over Brendan Allen, where Borralho is a well-rounded fighter with, you know, type of power, and he has some good submission threats with good cardio to go 5 rounds. His striking defense is good as well, and, you know, he has good accuracy, decent speed, good control time with strong takedowns, good accuracy, good fight IQ. Again, he doesn't have any serious power to end the fight early, as well he does struggle against high-volume strikers, and I think that's the key right there. I think Imavov is going to keep Borralho on that back foot pretty much the entire fight. It's still going to be a close-ass fight. Is it going to be a, oh, this guy for sure deserves to fight for the belt next type of performance from either of these guys? I don't think so. It'll be a close-ass decision win. I'm going to go for Imavov because I think he's going to keep Borralho on that back foot. 3 rounds to 2 maybe. I think it's going to be razor close. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching to the end of the video. Who do you guys have in that main event and co-main event spot? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys in my next video.